We talk a lot, especially now, in terms of representation. One of the reasons that Black Girls Run was created is because a lot of Black women will not come out to a sport if they don't see themselves at that sport. So from your commercials or what you put on your social media page or your advertisements, if I don't see someone that has the same shape and size or curly hair or my skin complexion, I'm not going to identify with a white woman that's running a 7:30 pace in little shorts that do not fit me. No, I'm not going to sign up for that race because I see this advertisement. But if you see someone who has the curves, who is a different complexion, you move outside of what you think a runner should look like, I think that's when you will get more representation, more people that you're getting that diverse audience that you want to attract.
Hey there, I'm Amy Connell. Welcome to Graced Health, the podcast for women who want simple and grace-filled ways to take care of themselves and enjoy a little chocolate in the process, because I like my dark chocolate. I'm a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach who wants you to know your eating, movement, and body don't have to be perfect. You just need to be able to do what you're called to do. I am honored to have on the show today JL Alexander. She is the owner and CEO of the organization Black Girls Run. We had a fantastic conversation, and I'm just so grateful for her time, for her education. As you know, I have been on my own listening and learning journey. That doesn't mean that I'm perfect at everything and that I know everything. It's a journey. And so I'm just really humbled by her willingness to come on the show, talk to me a little bit, talk to you a little bit, and help us just to understand a little bit more about Black Girls Run. She does tell us a little bit about it, about the organization and the structure. It has so many wonderful components to it. We talk about challenges in the African American community in terms of healthy lifestyles and healthy living. We talk about how the white community can offer support without it just being a total knee-jerk reaction, which I think we did see a lot of knee-jerk reactions last summer after we lost Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and so many others. And so we get into that a little bit. And then, is it okay to show up at a Black Girls Run event if you're not Black? Because that was one of the questions that I had for her. And she actually talked about that before I even got to it. And then one of my own personal questions, which is, will you be having another Erase Racism? We talked some about that. And so I won't belabor it here, but I'm just really excited for you to hear this conversation. JL has a lot of spinning plates right now. Not only is she owner and CEO of Black Girls Run, she is also a public relations practitioner. She has a genuine commitment to giving back to the local community through her passion for communications, health, and fitness. She graduated from George Mason University in 2008 and has a Bachelor of Arts degree in communications with a concentration in journalism. She has her Master's of Science degree in strategic public relations from Virginia Commonwealth University. I am so excited to have her on. Before I bring on JL, I want to offer you something I am working on and will be coming out very, very soon, and that is called Squat Free Strong Legs. Look, I'm 46 years old, and I have a lot of clients who are over 40, and they just don't feel comfortable doing squats, doing lunges, and that kind of stuff anymore. And I get it. Our bodies age, and they let us know about it sometimes. If you would like to receive this free workout. It's what it is. It's 12 different movements. And then I have several different ways that you can create that into its own workout, or you can use it as a warm up. You can use it as a cool down, as a complement to your running or walking. Go over to gracedhealth.com/stronglegs and put your name in, and I will get that out to you as soon as it is available, which will probably be the beginning of March. I'm going to try and over deliver and under promise and over deliver. I'm going to try this. So anyway, hopefully it'll come out sooner. Okay, let's bring on JL. JL, I am so glad you are here on the Graced Health podcast. Welcome.
Thank you, Amy, for having me. I'm super excited.
I am too. We're going to get into this in a little bit, but I just had such a wonderful experience with Black Girls Run. As you know, I'm not Black, but I got to experience just a coming together and a unity through the Erase Racism that I did with a friend. So we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But I do want to kind of start out and just kind of put something out there, which is, I've been trying to listen and learn from the Black community for a while. It's a process. It's a journey. And if I say anything that is either incorrect or is offensive, please let me know, because that's the only way I can grow. And I don't know what I don't know. And, I'm not afraid of difficult conversations. So, you don't feel like you need to publish or to polish, any of the hard parts. I just think that change can only happen when we're stretched. So, not that I'm like wanting to dig into a bunch of hard stuff, but I just want you to.
I get it. I totally get it.
Okay. So why don't we start off just by letting you know, or having you let everybody know a little bit about yourself and what you do, because we were talking before we got on and you have a lot of plates in the air that you're spinning.
Yeah. So I am a full-time entrepreneur. I'm based here in Richmond, Virginia. Like most folks working out of their homes these days. But my day-to-day job of what I say, I have my own PR firm. And so my background is in marketing and PR. And so I have a few clients that I manage their communications and so forth. And this is anything from local government to small nonprofit. So your newsletter, social media, writing for leadership, all of that good stuff. I help manage the day-to-day for those businesses. And then on the flip side, I am the owner and CEO of Black Girls Run. And this is a national running organization where we, at its core, empower women to make physical activity, fitness, and health a lifestyle. And we do that through the idea of community and coming together pre-COVID at races and events across the country to really increase representation on the pavement, but also provide resources for women to become healthy and active together. So those are my two babies that keep me busy.
Well, I'm sure that does absolutely keep you busy and more. I'm curious how the community aspect has changed over the last year during COVID with Black Girls Run, because I think we've all had to figure out a new type of connection and community.
Yeah, well, I think we're still trying to figure it out. I don't think any of us thought we would be in this for this long haul. And so we were like, yeah, we'll be back by the summer. And then summer came and went. Yeah, we'll be back by the fall. And then fall came and went. And here we are almost a year later. And we're still trying to figure out, okay, can we get together? How many people can we get together? Maybe we just stay virtual. And we're still having questions. And the same thing is still happening with Black Girls Run. We have some local entities that's, they're a bit more flexible with when they meet and how many people meet. And we have some groups like myself here in Richmond, where we have been doing solo runs for the last year, and we check in that virtual space and keep each other accountable from afar. So it has definitely been a challenge trying to keep people engaged, keep people accountable, keep people motivated during this time of just aloneness, and letting people know that there is still a community out here. This is just a short-term sacrifice, that we'll all be back together soon, and just kind of keeping that sense of togetherness, alone together idea, keeping that as a priority right now until we transition out of this.
I love how you say alone together. Boy, I don't know that there has been ever a time in my life, at least, that I can that just resonates so much. Yeah, it's been hard. And community, I know, is so important. I teach, I'm a personal trainer, but I really got my roots in group fitness. And I wish I could say where it was from and quote the source, but it was something like 86% of the reason people show up at group fitness classes is for the community. And I have to imagine that the community aspect is so strong within your organization as well.
Yeah,
And not being able
absolutely.
to do that, it just adds a whole nother element of
Yeah.
challenge.
Yeah. We call it like positive peer pressure. Like before you know
Yeah.
it, you're signed up for a race and then you're traveling here to go run this race. And you're like, and then you blame it on your best girlfriend because she dragged you to do all this stuff. And it was like, well, no, you really didn't have to sign up for that half marathon if you didn't want to. So yeah, it usually the women that are joining us, it's because they see us out in the community running and they're trying to figure out, well, who is that group of Black women that just ran past? Or they know someone that knows someone and they've been pulled in that way. And so, again, that idea of community, knowing someone, and then that accountability standpoint, knowing that, hey, I know I have Amy meeting me at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday in the parking lot of this grocery store to go run 6 miles, that accountability alone, I mean, it's huge. And so that's the sense that I hopefully we won't lose and we'll able to get back soon.
I'm sure you will, because my experience, and I think that this is really common with a lot of runners and walkers, is the relationships you develop side by side on that pavement it just goes deep really fast. There's no like baby stepping into things. I mean, you're shaking your head or you're nodding your head like,
Yeah,
oh yeah.
the conversations that you have on the pavement are so much more deeper than just picking up the phone and talking to a girlfriend. Like I have some girlfriends that I run with that we talk about everything. I mean, just how we're feeling, situations that we're going through. And I don't know if we just kind of get lost in the conversation, but we're like this, like it's almost like a therapy session, even more than a training run. But yeah, those training runs really pull something out of you where you are building some quality relationships on the pavement.
Yes, absolutely. I know my walks with friends, I haven't been running distance as much lately, but those walks with my friends have really sustained me over the last year.
I'm in agreement with you.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Black Girls Run. I know that, like you mentioned, a core value of it is to motivate Black women to maintain a healthy lifestyle. Can you share a little bit about how the organization is structured, and what it offers the members? I mean, we touched on that just a little bit, but I know you have local communities, and tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we have a total of 75 local communities across the country. We have right at about 190 ambassadors, and our ambassadors are the local leadership. So if you live in a Chicago of the world, and you're looking to get connected with that local group, I will link you with, Carmen, Jinsey, and Kelly, who are the ambassadors for Chicago. And they'll get you welcome in, pulls you in saying, hey, we would love to meet you. Here is our running schedule. Figure out if there's a run that works for you on your side of town, the time that works for you. And then we have another level of a few hundred run coordinators. And these are the women that you're meeting at that 6 a.m. Tuesday morning run in the grocery store parking lot to go run, 6 miles or what have you. So we have those different layers of how to get engaged and start running at a local level. And they also have events. We have, we'll partner with our local running stores to host events, or, we'll do anniversary runs, Mother's Day runs. I mean, we're doing something all the time. Just again, keep women engaged, active just as much as possible. And then on a national level, we plan, I like to call them like BGR reunions. We partner with races across the country. The last one was the Miami Marathon, February of 2020. We had about 600 women come to Miami to run that event that weekend. And this is an opportunity to meet other women across the country, that, we have women that travel by themselves or come in groups, and they come to these races to run. But then we also offer that community and social aspect where go out to dinner, have a pre-race dinner together. Hey, I'll meet you in the morning so we'll meet up for pre-race photos. So again, that opportunity just to come together and meet other women that are trying to be active and physically fit just like you. And that's kind of the different levels of how we are able to kind of build this BGR movement. And then we also host a national conference and race each year. Again, a lot of this is pre-COVID. So hopefully that will be coming back in 2022. So a lot of different activations and resources for women to get physically fit.
That's great. So in the local areas, like you mentioned, Chicago, and I live in Houston, which is a really large, or I live in the Houston area, which is a large area. It may be that you have several different kind of mini groups within the communities. So that way people, it's just a proximity thing, I have to imagine, make it a little easier.
Yeah. So, we may have, I'm familiar a little with Houston, but my father's family lives in Beaumont. So, we may have women that live directly in the Houston area, but we may have women that, live further out into like the Port Arthur area. So that hour and a half distance may still all be under Houston, but we'll have a different run coordinator that coordinates that run that lives closer in that community versus someone that may be like in the downtown area. So that's the same situation for most of our larger metropolitan cities, that we have people scattered around the area to manage those local city runs.
Yeah, that sounds great. That's nice. And yeah, that way you don't have to drive an hour and a half to go
exactly
run. 45 minutes.
Exactly.
I would love to hear how you got involved in Black Girls Run and a little bit of your own, journey.
Yeah, so I was introduced to BGR back in 2011, but even before then, I actually started running in 2010. I had hit my then heaviest weight, as I call it. Had just came out of grad school, met my now husband, put on good happy weight, and was just enjoying life, as I say. And weight was coming on, and I started experiencing headaches, and I was only about 23 at the time, and so. And had always been active. My parents were active and still super active. So physical activity and fitness and health has always been just a part of my life. And so when I got on my own and became an adult and could make my own decisions, obviously I wasn't signing up to go run or be active or eat apples and bananas. I was doing everything else that I wasn't supposed to be doing. And my body told on me really quick with the weight gain and the headaches that I was experiencing. So I went to a doctor and she was like, Jay, you are way too young to be going on medication. Let's do some small steps first. Because, once you go on blood pressure medication, there is no coming off of that. Yeah. And so I started making a change in my diet and my lifestyle, signed up for a 10K, and just fell in love with the pavement, just what it did for me, just, that feeling of accomplishment coming through the finish line, but then also the training aspect and, that community that I built, even with that training team that I had signed up for 10 years ago. Through that, when I started falling in love with running, BGR was coming off of the ground. And so had just graduated grad school, got introduced to the co-founders through a professional colleague. And they were like, hey, they're launching this national running group. They just put out a call for interns to help them with some media and some branding. You should reach out to them. So sent in a resume to Tony and Ashley, interview with them. And 2 weeks later, I was on a plane to New York to help manage their first media event in New York as they started, as the groups really started catching fire. And that was 10 years ago. And
The rest is
literally
history.
the rest is really history. So my role with them has completely ebbed and flowed. I've helped to support from every aspect of the business, from merchandise to partnerships, even working with our local groups and so forth. And then at the end of 2017, they were looking just to go on kind of the next chapter of their lives, and positioned me to buy the business. And I was like, no, I'm good, like we're okay. I see everything that's happening behind the scenes, and I don't want any part of that. But it just kept on weighing on me. And so I didn't want to go to the bank for a loan. And literally, I went to my parents, some family members, and friends, and I was like, hey, this is the opportunity I have. How can you support? How much of a check can you write? Like, can you really help me out with this? And literally, I had 8 family and friends to write me a check and say, Jay, go pursue your dreams and just pay us back when you can. And that was 3 years ago. And it's been amazing. And my weight loss story, my fitness journey has completely continued to ebb and flow. I hit my heaviest weight. I won't hit that weight again, Lord willing. I hit my heaviest weight, 304 pounds, the 12 hours before I went in to deliver my son. And I thought, they talk about snapback after having a child. My body did not snap back. And it took a long time. I mean, I was struggling to run a mile. And I ran a half marathon at 8 months pregnant. So I was like, yeah, I'll be back on the pavement in no time. No, ma'am, that did not happen for me at all. It took several months for me to get back. And even my first race, which was the Miami Marathon meetup, 6 months postpartum, that was the longest half marathon ever. My body was like, no, you're not ready for this. And I hurt so bad after that half marathon. And so that was kind of my trigger point to say, hey, okay, JL, you need to get some more weight off. You've hit your pre-pregnancy weight, but that was still too heavy for you. And so fast forward to now, I've lost about 115 pounds.
Wow.
And so I've fallen in love with running again, because it's been, again, my fuel to really keep the weight off and be healthy and active for my son. And now it's become, a family thing. I've pulled my husband in saying, hey, you got to lose some weight over there too. And, just be made it a family activity so we can all be healthy and active for this 18-month-old we have running around here now. So, my fitness journey meshed with my own personal and professional in terms of communications and marketing. And now here we are 3 years later, and BGR has definitely reached a new pinnacle that I'm super excited to be leading us through.
Yeah, well, it's great. And, one of the things that you said kind of early on is that health was just kind of a part of your family growing up. And even though you wandered from that, you ended up kind of returning. And I have read that, I read these research articles and then I file them away, file the little one nugget away in my head, and then I can't remember where it's from. But yeah, basically talking about how it's a pack mentality. And so if you're, kids who grow up in a pack who choose good foods and move their bodies, that they eventually will often return back to that, even if they don't. I mean, look, how many of us ate a whole lot of pizza and drank a whole lot of beer in college? I mean,
Exactly.
I'm raising my hand. So.
Exactly. Yeah. My parents are in their mid-70s, and my mom and dad still play tennis, go roller skating, still play pickleball, just very active. And I'm like, now I understand, in my mid-30s, I understand. I was like, okay, I get why they were pushing this on me at a young age, and why this was a part of our household conversation. I get it now. I do.
Yeah, it was probably really annoying when you were growing up.
Oh, I hated it. My dad was my basketball coach. I absolutely hated it. But now I look back and I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have been so mean to them.
I think we all have moments of like, you probably should have given my parents a little grace.
Yeah, exactly. Especially now that I have my own child, I'm like, oh, Mom, like, I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. I wrote my mom at Mother's Day one time. I was like, thank you for, and then just all like the lunches that you made, like the little bitty things that I never even realized that she did.
You never understood. I never understood it until
you never get it. Yeah, totally. Oh gosh. Okay. So, switching gears just a little bit, can you, talk to me a little bit about some of the unique, challenges that African Americans face in, either starting a healthy lifestyle or maintaining it? Because I think the research shows it is different. It is a harder first step often. And I know that we can't make, that's just a general statement. We can't, it doesn't mean it's across the board and for everyone.
Yeah.
But help us, talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, it's a lot to unpack there. And I would probably say there's different levels to it. In terms of, at an individual basis, a lot of times, in the Black community, the mother or the female is sometimes the main head of household. And so we come into this caretaker role where we're taking care of everyone else before ourselves. And that sometimes is just a cultural thing. It's a community thing, but we see that very often in the Black community, where the female is taking on a lot of responsibility, and sometimes just health and fitness just does not fit into that because everything else becomes priority. Even from a cultural standpoint, talking about access to food, to healthy foods, having access to safe sidewalks and safe parks. And this, starts to unpack going into a systemic racism thing, where how different neighborhoods were built in different communities where it siloed them out from a healthy grocery store, having healthy access to healthy fresh foods and things of that nature, or just even how your local government responds to fixing a street light. And like, it shouldn't take months for a street light to be replaced, or getting a sidewalk so someone can safely walk along the sidewalk. So I think, a lot of that plays a part into it. We talk a lot, especially now, in terms of representation. One of the reasons that Black Girls Run was created is because a lot of Black women will not come out to a sport if they don't see themselves at that sport. So from your commercials or what you put on your social media page or your advertisements, if I don't see someone that has the same shape and size or curly hair or my skin complexion, I'm not going to identify with a white woman that's running a 7:30 pace in little shorts that do not fit me. No, I'm not going to sign up for that race because I see this advertisement. But if you see someone who has the curves, who is a different complexion, you move outside of what you think a runner should look like. I think that's when you will get more representation, more people, that you're getting that diverse audience that you want to attract. We often talk about hair in the Black community, which is huge. And I
hear this is a thing.
It is.
This is what I've learned.
It's a very real conversation. It costs a lot of money to maintain your hair, especially if you're not natural. And like for me, if I go get my hair straightened, I'm not running for a few days because I know the amount of time and effort it took for my hair to get straightened, for it to stay straight. And I'm not going to sweat and ruin that. And so often we talk about, well, we have to put health before beauty, and that's a continuous conversation. But it is definitely a real conversation talking about hair and Black women, the amount of money that we spend. And, we don't want, sometimes sweating it out and going for a 10-mile or a 2-mile run or whatever that looks like. That's just not going to work.
It's not worth it. Yeah.
It's not worth it at all. So it's definitely a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
But even if it's not a Black thing, we also talk about just coming from just being a woman, and feeling safe in spaces where we may not feel safe before. The idea of running alone, all of that, there's a lot of unpacking to do there. And we those conversations have been even more prevalent over the last year that we've seen. But it's a continuous conversation, and nothing that I don't think it's not anything that we can fix overnight, but we can definitely start making small steps to at least feel like we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, I think you're doing that. And that's got to be, I have to imagine too, how empowering that is for, a group of healthy Black women of all shapes and sizes, running along a pavement, and for a little girl to see someone with the same complexion as her and say, okay, wow, this is, and maybe she's not getting that pack mentality at home. Maybe she is, maybe she's not, but to be able to look outside of the walls of her home and see that, I have to imagine that probably reaches a lot deeper, than we realize. And, it's funny. I have a friend who's Black, and we were talking about representation, and she's a writer now. And so, she said, I just wish I could have read more in the public school system, about, that were just written by Black women. She said, had I done that, my life would have taken a totally different trajectory. And she said, it just little things like that. And, a girlfriend of mine, her daughter is from Africa, and she was, she just was talking about when on inauguration day, and Kamala Harris, and I know she's a Alpha Kappa Alpha sister of yours, right?
Yeah.
And just talking, she was like the smile that she had when she knew that her new vice president, loved to wear checks and pearls. Like, so anyway, yeah, I just think that is so important, and I think oftentimes when you grow up white, you don't realize it's not that you don't recognize it. It's just, you just don't even realize it. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. And that's a very real statement. I was, talking to some friends last week, and, they have an organization where it wasn't intentionally built the way it is, but they realize, okay, we've done something wrong. And now we have to be intentional, but in the same breath, be authentic about the relationships we want to build, because now we need to change the trajectory of where this organization is headed. And I think that those are definitely real conversations to be had. But again, if we're able to showcase that diversity, then those little girls, whether it's on television or what have you, or if we're running out in the neighborhood, if they see it and we expose them to something that they may not be getting at home or at school, then that just opens up a whole new avenue for them to say, okay, that is a possibility, because I saw XYZ. I saw those women running. So why can't I do that? And that exposure alone can definitely really change things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so I'll kind of along those same lines of, I know that previous question, like you said, there was a lot to unpack there. So thanks for humoring me with that. Yeah. But how can white women support the initiatives of organizations like Black Girls Run without it seeming like they're just coming in and trying to be a white savior and trying to fix things? Because I know that can be a perception. Even if the heart is there, it can sometimes we're not meeting right in the same space. And you're laughing like, so I think you know what I'm talking.
Yeah, I get it.
You
I
get
get
what I'm
it.
talking about.
Over this last year, I have had to protect my own space. After the George Floyd and Breonna
Yeah.
Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, I think, not to say all, but just making a vague statement. I think a lot of people just put in, okay, Black women groups, and Black Girls Run popped up on a Google search, and I started receiving an influx of emails like, hey, how can we partner with you guys? And I have this initiative, I think Black Girls Run would be great for it, and we have this platform for diversity and equity and inclusion. And I'm like, but if George Floyd wasn't killed, would you have been reaching out to me before? Like, it just seemed like I understood why they were reaching out, but it was just wrong timing. And so I say all of that
because you were
say,
grieving.
yeah, like it was a lot going on last summer, like a lot.
Yeah.
And I found myself one day, I was like on 3 diversity panels, and I was like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I had found myself where I was like, okay, I need to take a step back, reassess where I am, and I don't need to be talking as much. I just need to be just kind of in my own space, with kind of some silence. And I say all that to say is that, we all need to assess, it can't be a knee-jerk reaction to how we are responding to kind of these social injustices that have been really just on the spotlight for the last year or so. We have to be very intentional and authentic when we reach out to make these relationships and these introductions. But also, you can't reach out to me and I can't be the solution and and part of what is perceived as the problem as well. Like, I can't help you to say this is what you should be doing. I think it's an ongoing conversation. First, we need to realize, okay, there is a problem here, but we're not going to solve it overnight, and we're not going to fix it in this 30-minute conversation. Like, it needs to be some follow-up. It needs to be some retrospect happening. We need to create, some systemic and very intentional ways of how we're going to move forward and make things better for everyone. And so that may not answer your question directly, but, if people are trying to figure out, how can I help Black Girls Run, just come out to a run. Don't say that you have to come out and introduce yourself and say, this is what I'm trying to do. This is why I'm here. Just come out to a run. Just join us on the pavement. Just enjoy running like us as well, but come to our space. We don't always have to come to those training runs that you're hosting. Come to our space and just be a part of the run, but don't have a reason for coming other than just coming to run. And I think just having that presence alone will start to create relationships and start to create conversations that will happen more authentically than you having a purpose of coming to a run or it coming off as kind of like a white savior. So I think those are just small steps that we can take as all of us try to navigate this space of interacting with people on a deeper, more authentic level, but that we'll have these relationships we won't feel like we're starting from scratch again, when a next situation happens. We'll be already, connected, and we'll like, okay, now that this has happened, how are we going to continue this relationship versus, hey, I talked to you last year, but I haven't heard from you since last year. Now this has happened again, and we feel like we're getting introduced to each other all over.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm really hearing you say, just come stand with us and just come, and come be. And then that's where it's just like anything else in any other relationship. Progress comes and intimacy, of relationships come when you're just spending time together and without expectation and without saying, okay, well, I'm going to do this and you're going to teach me this. It's just like, no, we're just here together. Yeah. And thank you. Thank you for sharing that about just come out to a run, because that has been, so that obviously in 2021, or 2020, excuse me, it wasn't an option of just going out and joining anyone anywhere, because that's just not what we're doing this year or last year. But I as I have been learning and listening to various Black leaders, obviously one voice does not speak for the masses.
Yeah.
And so I hear different things. And so sometimes I hear, go to church with, go to a church that's predominantly Black and, show up in that space there. And then I've also heard, don't come to church. Like, that's our space. and, I want to respect. It's hard to know what to do. So I thank you for that invitation to just show up, because I have wanted to do that. And, but I don't want to take the sacredness of a space away from anyone. Does that make sense?
No, I get that. And I mean, I think it's a case by case situation. And I think it requires a little introspect to say, okay, what's the reason that I want to go to a Black church this weekend? Or what's the reason that I want to show up to a BGR run? And making sure that it's a genuine connection and that it's authentic and it's not just a one-off or a knee-jerk reaction because Ahmaud Arbery was killed on the run. No, it's because I want to create change. I want to build relationships. I want to do something different. Yeah. And so I think if we look at making sure that it's genuine and authentic, that will be immediately felt. And it won't be like you're invading our space or you've taken away from the sanctity of this. And I think that's probably the first step.
Okay. Well, that's good. And don't go just to check off the box either.
Yeah, exactly. This is not
being nicer than that.
Exactly. This is not a box check situation. Yes, right. That's exactly it.
Yes. Okay. All right. So what I'm really hoping is when the world opens back up again, that I can join one of the local communities here and bring my new friend who I met through the Erase Racism. So I just a little, I mean, how this worked because this was under Black Girls Run, but just for the listeners. So I was kind of poking around on the internet. I think it was maybe around August with something different. And I happened to come along the Black Girls Run website. And then you were having this I think it was late July. I'm not really sure. But anyway, you have this Erase Racism. So this was a virtual race that you did with a partner. And so the intent was to bring people of different cultures together and do it, however that worked for them. Right. So it was, now I happened to find someone in my neighborhood, and I had just joined a neighborhood like racial reconciliation Facebook group. And so I was like, all right, is there a Black woman who wants to do this with me? Because I thought I would love to make a new relationship and a new friendship. And she joined, and I'm not kidding you, like 3 houses into this. I mean, we were talking body image. We were talking politics. We're talking about on the pavement. So that was such a fantastic opportunity. And then I was telling other friends about it. They were like, well, I want to do it. And I'm like, I think it had already started and all that. So are you going to do another one?
We had such a positive response. Did not think it was going to, obviously it was coming off the heels of, of everything that was going on in our country. But we definitely want to do it again. It's great to hear that you were actually able to physically connect with someone in person. We were connecting women virtually from across the country. So they were sending pictures, doing GroupMe. I was connected with a woman that was in Australia. Cool. So we had the whole time difference. It was crazy. But I heard some genuine relationships and conversations that were had. So yes, the goal is to do it again, probably late spring, early summer time frame again, before we hopefully return back to in-person activity. But yeah, you definitely hit it on the nose. That was the purpose, to really connect people that may not have been connected before, and do it through the power of running, and be able to have those conversations that were definitely long overdue.
Yeah. Well, I'm so grateful for that opportunity. And she is so close to my heart. And if you need any ambassadors for that, I would love to be a part of that.
I'll definitely follow up with you to make sure folks know, get connected with you to, this is what happened and came out of this experience. And we have an amazing shout out to Kim, and her team down there in Houston. We have an amazing Houston team.
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, I hope that one day I can meet them. Oh, gosh. Okay. So I have two more questions that are very different. So the first question is revolving around tattoos. So I'm fascinated by tattoos. I don't have any, but I have found that oftentimes when people get them, they put a lot of thought into it. And I love the stories that come from it. So I was wondering, and I think I know the answer to this because you've been using your hands. I was wondering if you have any tattoos, if you would like to share the story of one of them.
I have quite a few. I say most of my tattoos are probably more than 10 years old. So a time in my life, and I go back to the reason I started running, a time in my life where I just seemed to be very rebellious, and doing everything that my parents told me not to do. And then I moved out the house and I was like, I'm doing everything that it's told me not to do. So I have tattoos on the inside of each of my wrists, but called Love and Happiness are those two. Probably the one that I'm most proud of. I have a tattoo that says Philippians 4:13. And that has just been, faith has always been a strong component of my life as well. But that continues to ebb and flow. But faith has definitely been something that's been rock steady, from childhood into adult life. And so that Bible scripture, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. As much as I sometimes make poor decisions, I have to come back to that scripture and saying, okay, I've been able to continue to breathe, wake up another day, continue to be a business entrepreneur. And a lot of those things that sometimes I take for granted, I need to kind of humble myself and bring myself back in and figure out, okay, who's making all of this happen? It's not me. So that's probably my Bible verse that kind of, reels me in and humbles me very often.
Yeah. Well, that's it is a good one. And it's so hard. Like, it's one of those things that I know, and then I forget. Yeah. And then I'm reminded, and then I know, and then I forget, and then I'm reminded. And it is, one of the most mind-blowing things I heard one time was, there's that saying that, God doesn't give you anything you can't handle. Mm-hmm. And it was a speaker, and she was like, actually, that's not true. She's like, he gives you more than you can handle. Yeah. So you learn to lean on his strength. And I was like,
yeah. Whoa. No, I totally get that. Yeah. My, 2021 has been an interesting year already. And I say right now, God and we're sitting on opposite ends of the table right now, trying to have a discussion of what are you exactly doing? Because I'm not really understanding what's going on right now. So, it continues to be an ongoing conversation of how much you can put on me to let me know what I can and can't bear.
He always wins though, right?
Yeah, I know. Absolutely. I know. But sometimes just a little clarity helps. It's like I said, faith is something that has been a strong component of my life. And definitely has that strength alone on him has definitely gotten me through some rocky periods.
Absolutely. Yeah. Amen to that. Gosh. Okay, JL, thank you so much for your time. I'm so grateful for it. I'm excited that we could have this conversation. Again, I really would love to be, even if it's just like, hey, Amy, this is coming out. And I'm sure I'm on the email list, let my neighborhood know, let my community know. Cause it was really something I will hold dear in my heart for the rest of my life. I mean, that's how meaningful it was.
Thank you. I'm excited. I'm definitely very honored to hear that. And definitely we'll keep you in the loop as we roll out the next challenge.
Thank you again to JL for your time, your education, your gentleness, and just that conversation. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much, in fact, that I forgot to mention or to ask her where to connect with Black Girls Run. So I'm going to give that to you here. I do apologize for not giving her the opportunity to tell us about it, but you can learn more about Black Girls Run at blackgirlsrun, all one word.com. You can follow them on Instagram it's the @official Black Girls Run, Facebook, Black Girls Run, Twitter, Black Girls Run. I'll put all of this in the show notes so you can connect with them there. Hey, do you get my monthly journals? I really hope so. This is probably the most fun I have writing every single month. This is where I give you movements that I'm loving, recipes, foods. You know, I'm on a total kimchi. The people who get the updates know this. I'm like totally digging kimchi right now. Sometimes it's music or music videos, just different things that are touching me. Sometimes they're devotionals or Bible study plans. I would love to send those to you each month. It's just such a joy, and it's fun to write. And if I can say this, is it okay to say that people seem to really like them? Like, I get comments back all the time. Go over to gracedhealth.com/monthly-updates and put your name in. I will send it to you at the beginning of the month, right around the 1st, give or take a little bit. Each episode, I try to leave you with one simple thing to remember. Sometimes we cover a whole lot, and I try and just narrow it down because that's the way my brain works. It's like, okay, out of all of this information, what's the one simple thing? And I'm going to use an analogy that I think is really appropriate here. If you have ever participated in any sort of race, whether it's a 5K, 10K, half marathon, by the way, I don't know why you'd want to do a marathon, but that's okay. You do you. You know that it's not something that you just wake up one day and you do. You've got to get out there. You've got to get on the pavement. You've got to put the work in and just make that commitment time after time after time to be ready for that race. I think that's a great analogy for those of us who are wanting to support the Black community. If you are white, that it's not just a show up on race day. It's not a just show up and check the box. We've got to make the effort time and time again to step alongside our Black sisters and brothers to, I know this has probably been overused, but lock arms with them, listen, learn, and just take that next right step with the Black community in order for us to take the next step toward unity. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's not a quick fix, and it's not going to happen with a knee-jerk reaction. So that's kind of a long, one simple thing, but that's where my heart is today. Okay, that is all for today. Go out there and have a graced day.